You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Awesome. So I'm here with Allysha Hickling, who is the founder of The Organised Boss. Welcome, Allysha. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, I am really keen to dive into this topic today, all about CRMs. But before we do, can you give us a bit of a background as to you? Like, who do you work with in your business? What is it that you actually do?
Okay, so I work with service-based CEOs, typically women in business, is who I serve. And I partner with them in their business, more so on a strategic level. So I'm in no way, shape or form a business coach or a business mentor, but I'm almost like a business wing woman or a right hand woman in their business. And in terms of where I started in my business, my business has been established since May of 2018, and it's a very memorable month. It was a birthday month for myself. So it's also business birthday month and personal birthday month.
Nice.
And my daughter was 9 months when I started my business. And I actually started as a VA. I started as a virtual assistant and then pivoted to an OBM about somewhere 18 months, 2 years in.
Okay. Interesting. So tell me a bit about that, because I think that, you know, we've all heard the terms VA, OBM. I feel like at times they can get a bit confused as to what the real difference is. Like, most people know an OBM is a step up from a VA, but what really is the difference? Like, what did you do as a VA? Maybe if you can tell us a bit about your story, like what was your VA business? And then when you say you pivoted to OBM, what did that actually look like?
So, when I started as a virtual assistant, I was basically just managing and completing tasks that the clients that I was working with at the time just needed ticked off their list. They didn't have time to do them. They knew what they wanted done, but they just needed someone who was reliable and honest and trustworthy to just get it done. So, had set tasks that I needed to complete every week. And which was fine. Gosh, as a mum, you're managing a 1-year-old at the time. Those sorts of tasks for me were great because they weren't too challenging for me to do. I was still able to find my own feet again outside of being a parent for the first time. And then, so at about that 18-month mark, I started working with a particular client who, probably about 3 months in, she kindly pulled me aside and she said, listen, I just need to tell you that what you're doing, or the services that you're providing, for me at least, you're not a typical VA at all. She said, you're sort of providing me with much more than just getting the tasks done. You're helping me in a different way. I'm a big thinker. So a client might say, this is what we need to do and this is how we're going to do it. And if I honestly think that there's a better way to do it, or if I just sort of want to say, well, is there a reason why we're doing it this way? I kind of want to peel back the layers a little bit and find out, is this because it's worked in the past? Is this because a business coach has asked you to do it this way? And then I'll always throw my opinion in if I do believe that, perhaps we could also throw another idea in the ring. What is it, how do you feel about this? Because, there's always going to be more than one way to skin a cat. And sure, we're not going to know if that's the right way until we do it. But so when she mentioned to me that I wasn't a typical VA, and I pushed back on a few things sometimes, sort of starting to get a bit, feeling a little bit, what's the word? More confident, I guess. So I actually started investigating and doing a bit of research online, and then I discovered, obviously the term OBM had been around for, so much longer. It's not like I just uncovered it myself, but found it, and I realized that, hey, like this is definitely more in my liking. This is definitely where I live. This is where my strengths lie. Do I have more to learn in this area? Absolutely, but it was exciting. It was exciting, and yeah, so I guess that was where the pivot happened for me, and yeah, I've kind of just very much enjoyed living in this space. Yeah.
Now I have some questions I want to ask because, you know, having worked with VAs and OBMs since I started my business, which was not long before you started yours, and I had a baby as well at the same time, so very familiar with all of that. Like, what have you done before previously that you brought in, you know, so there's so many VAs and people kind of specialize in different areas. Some try to be the unicorn that can do absolutely anything and everything, and I'm always a bit like, well, I know from my days back, you know, being the head of marketing and hiring agencies, was like an agency would always tell me, we can do everything for you. I'd be like, no, you probably actually can't. Maybe you think you can, but you're not going to be great at everything. So that's exactly I would always try to get them to tell me what they were actually really good at. And that would be what I would hire them for. And I feel like it's the same with VAs. Often people are like, well, the more things I could put on my CV and the more things I could offer makes me better. And it's like, well, yes and no, not necessarily. But I'm interested what your background was before that, like, you know, maybe before you had your baby, like what you brought in to be that VA, because, you know, from the sound of it, you had a lot of skills and experience that you kind of brought into the role. And, you know, clearly that's why you were able to so quickly shift into a place of being an OBM as well.
Yeah. So look, I've got, prior to starting my own business, more than 15 years experience working sort of at that PA, EA level, supporting, you know, managing directors or directors of particular, you know, teams within large global corporations. So look, prior to, I guess, starting my business, I was working for a commercial and industrial real estate company in the city, Knight Frank. I'll just drop that name.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Knight Frank Australia. So I was working with them prior to, and I had previously also worked for CBRE for many, many years. Yeah. So just, as I said, kind of just, you know, sort of at that like high end level admin support, very fast-paced environments, getting things done, getting it done quickly.
Yes.
And also did dabble back in the GFC. Well, prior to the GFC, I started in 2008 as a recruitment consultant. And did that for a couple of years. And, you know, when the GFC hit, it didn't work in my favor. If you hadn't worked as a recruitment consultant through a financial crisis like that, then you just weren't probably going to come out alive. But, you know, look, I have a love-hate relationship with that industry. What I guess I loved was the fact that no day was the same. I love to talk. And I got on the phone and interviewed candidates. And at the end of the day, what I really loved was being able to, you know, solve a problem for my client and being able to provide them with a solution. And in turn, bringing that skill into being an OBM as well, alongside all of those, you know, senior level support, admin, operational type of experience that I had. I love being able to see a problem that my client has, whatever, you know, they've got a goal that they're trying to hit in, you know, the next 3, 6, 12 months, coming up with a strategy for it, and being that extra pair of hands that they just knew that they needed in their business to help them get through it so that they could continue running their business, working on their business, doing what it is that they're passionate about in their business, and not worrying about that extra bit of, you know, that extra goal that they know that they just need an extra pair of hands for.
Yeah. So would you say that there's, like, I kind of hearing that, you know, there's the kind of management and the admin of the business, and that might include kind of HR type things, managing teams and that sort of stuff. And then the other piece, I often see a lot of people, you know, outsourcing or getting VAs and OBMs have a lot of expertise in that marketing area as well, which can be a piece. So would you say obviously not all OBMs have the same skill set or even work in the same way. And certainly the ones who I've worked with have been quite different. Like I've had ones that are much more admin. I've had ones that have more of a marketing background and very, very different. And I think it's sort of, knowing what is the right fit for you is obviously going to make a real difference. Can you tell me a bit more about it? Because I feel like I've peeled back some layers, but I don't actually think still there's a lot of, still not 100% really clear. Like, what is it? How does, with your style, if you can explain to me in more detail, like, your style of OBM, what is that place that, apart from being the right-hand person and what have you, like, what is the actual role that you're playing within the business and that you're taking off the CEO or the owner's plate? And then how does that actually work in terms of the function of the business? Like, that might help, because I think that it's like we kind of get it conceptually, but I always feel like it's the detail that we often don't understand when we are the owner of a business and you're looking to hire an OBM. You kind of get it, but it's the detail, I think, that really is like, this either really works or it doesn't work. And rather than experience so many experiments that maybe don't work, it's better to kind of get clear up front, isn't it?
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's like almost a 3-4 part question, so you might have to run through anything.
To do that.
No, anything that I've missed or anything I missed towards the end, just bring that back. So look, definitely, just like virtual assistants, you're going to find OBMs that have got their strengths in different areas. So, for example, with VAs, you're going to have VAs who are more admin. They specialize more in the admin side. They specialize more perhaps in the, creative side or social media side of things. Same with OBMs. So I guess, yes, when it comes down to engaging in the right OBM or VA for your business, just like if you were, or because you are the CEO of your business, you really want to be vetting and doing as much research as possible. So, for example, because I've got that sort of recruitment background, I am really good at picking the right sort of team members for my clients if they are in the process of looking to engage, in an extra team member, and asking the right kinds of questions. Do
you manage the team for them? Like, are you kind of like that layer that sits between?
Look, for some, yes, some don't actually have a team and it's literally just them and myself. Some have got a team, but the team is pretty self-sufficient, so they don't really need management, but it might be more like checking in, making sure projects are still being looked after and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, look, it's not a cookie cutter approach because each business and each team is so unique and different. But I will do things like checking Facebook, Instagram, if they are running their own business, do they talk the talk and walk the walk? Checking LinkedIn, having a look at their background. Like, I try not to leave any online stone unturned, if you will. Trying to do as much research on them as I can. And do reference checks. Like, it's something I offer, because at the end of the day, look, someone can say, this is who I am and this is what I'm fantastic at, and this is, here's all of the amazing things about me. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, getting on the phone and actually talking to someone that they've worked with, whether it be a past employer or whether it be a past client, and just asking the relevant questions just to make sure. But, I always also say kind of go with your gut, because it's not just about if they can do it, if they're capable of doing the work, but they also need to, even if we work remotely, you still want to culturally, with the people you're going to be working with.
I was sort of asking about, just the differences in the types and the background, and like how you kind of know what sort you really need. And I guess that is a question that has so many layers to it, because it's like, well, probably depends, right? But thinking about things like, for example, if you have a business where you're doing some big projects, then would an OBM be someone coming in who's got a really strong background in project management and maybe people management and sort of having that expertise, as opposed to potentially managing themselves, which is different, and looking at systems and processes in the business. Like, I've found different people have had some very strong skill sets in certain areas, and it's just interesting because, thinking of what it is that you need for your business, and getting that person who can be really your right-hand support. Is it about understanding where you want to spend your time or where you don't want to spend your time as the owner, and having someone who's a really good complement there?
Yeah.
But really, I think that there's so many ways that you can have success with this role, and it can be so crucial and leveraged in a business. Whereas I do see sometimes people have an expectation over here, and then the reality is something different. But it's not because that is the only reality. It's because of the choices they've made and what they've thought about the role and who they've hired for it, and potentially don't have a great experience. But it's not because they can't. It's just because of the way that they've tried to plug it into the business. It's like the pieces aren't fitting together properly. Does that make sense? And
look, kind of. I mean, so I guess really understanding when you would need a VA or when you would need an OBM, and then what to look for. So I guess if, in a nutshell, I would probably suggest that, if you are, in the process of, if you're literally, still in, I guess, startup phase, probably not necessary to be looking at an OBM. You kind of really just want to get someone, a VA in your business, have a look at all the things that you just kind of would rather put a fork in your eye than do, So, and anything that's repetitive that either it can't be automated, or right now you just don't have the funds to invest in having them automated, but you just need them done, or perhaps you actually just still want human touch on, okay? Obviously, you still need to manage this person. A VA is still going to require your direction. You're still going to need to have, regular check-ins and making sure that that person is, is doing and completing these tasks in a timely manner, the way that you want them to. I guess once the business has been established a little bit more, you've got some goals, you're looking at growing, you kind of just don't want to be managing your VA anymore, and you've got bigger fish to fry. That's when it's probably time to start thinking about getting an OBM in the business and doing it. Look, there's a sweet spot in doing this, because if you get someone at that level in at the wrong time, it can be so damaging, because you still need to have, I guess, an element of a little bit of time to bring that person in, to explain to them what it is that you want them to do. If you're, if it's so chaotic in your head and in the business and things haven't been set up and you don't have time. I don't have time. I just want someone to come in and just do it. Well, it's just not going to happen. Someone still will need to sit with you and just kind of have a chat with you, and you might have to have regular meetings for the first month, once a week, just to kind of until they're settled, right? And then they're able to sort of take over the reins of the business. Now, of course, understanding what kind of OBM that you're going to need in the business is so crucial. And I guess talking to, even having a little consultation with one or two might actually help. If you just have a discovery call with a couple, then you're able to sort of say, okay, well, this is where I need help. They're able to stay straight up. Look, that's not that's not my zone of genius. This isn't really where I'm going to be a strong suit for you. They might have some recommendations for you. But again, just having a look at where you're looking to go in the business. Are you looking at launching a course? Are you just literally looking at growing? You can't take on any more work. So you don't want to sit there and actually reject all the work, but you know that something has to change in the business. So it could just be that the whole business needs just a bit of an uplift and a bit of optimization. So then you would get someone who understands business operations and can help streamline things a little bit better and allow for you, to take on a little bit more work, which means that you can then invest in a few more things. It means you can bring on new team members. It means, huge growth. So just understanding all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is it that what is the challenge that you're wanting to solve, and therefore what's the type of person you're going to bring in. I think that's helped a lot in terms of that simplifies it and helps to think of what sort of person it is that you're after when you're really thinking about it that way. Because I think you're right, so often we can get busy and you're just like, I just need somebody to take all this off my plate. But it's like, what does that actually look like, and why do you need it off your plate? What is the role, and what does success look like for this person? I think that can be such a simple question that why don't we ask it more often? Like, okay, we'll often say, here are responsibilities, or this is what we want the role to be, but you don't actually describe what you feel success looks like. What does it actually look like? So how do you know if it's working or if it's a win? And having that clarity can help, can't it?
Oh gosh, absolutely. And if I can throw something in, that if you are if you do feel like you're a little bit time poor, even just having something as simple as some standard operating procedures already created, they may not be the best ones, but having something in place so that whoever is going to be coming into your business has got something to refer to, rather than needing to ask you about, how is it that this is currently working? What's the process for this at the moment? There may not even be a process for this at the moment. But basically anything that you do in your business is a process, and having it documented or recorded in a video type format will just help anyone who's coming into the business, and then they won't need to really sort of bother you too much about it.
Yeah. Such an important one. And I think it's, your business grows so fast when it's a small business, and, it can just kind of take on a life of its own and grow really quickly. And when it's small, it's kind of easy because you aren't doing as many things. But then when it is growing like that, you can really quickly get to a point where it's like, okay, now I need someone to do this stuff, but it's only in your head, or it's in someone else's head that's been doing it. And that's what makes it hard to bring that extra person in, because it's like, well, how do you unpack that all out of your head? And
honestly, I'm laughing because the amount of times that I've heard, I've got it all in my head, is if I could put, $1 in a jar for every time I'd heard that, like, but why is it in your head? It's not doing anyone else any good if it's in your head.
Yeah, that's so funny. Now, I took us on a great big segue there, which has been really interesting, but thank you, because I think that this is a question I see happen a lot with, entrepreneurs and people I work with, and in all the circles, people kind of, they battle with this question if they're not a VA or OBM themselves, like, what do I actually need? And hiring the right person definitely makes such a difference to your business. But we were going to talk today about CRMs. So clearly this is a topic that you have a lot of, value and insights to bring. Let's talk about what is the role of a CRM in your business. Like, let's start off with just what is one, and why do we even need one? Like, why are we bringing this topic to the podcast today?
Look, CRM is a customer relationship management tool. So to kind of just simplify exactly what that means, it's a system to keep all of your new leads, all of your clients' information into one system. So look, the amount of times that I will I'll come across a new client I'll work with, and I have a look at their website, and I can see that they've got a contact form on their page, and it's, asking for the name and an email address and a phone number, and that's great. We can get in contact with this person. And then there's a box there that says, message, put your message here. And 9 times out of 10, this is just going to go into someone's inbox, which is great. Yes, you will get a notification that you got a new inquiry, but let's simplify this and not need to double handle this. And, next time that you want to find this person's details, you're going to have to go into your emails. And it just creates this busy, chaotic thing in your inbox. And everyone's trying to get to hashtag, inbox zero. So, CRMs are where, if you have got a form on your website, you want that form to be connected to your CRM so that, sure, you'll get a notification, I have a new inquiry, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. So all of their data will go into a contact card, and any communication that you have with that person, you can add some notes to, so you can reflect and refer back to it if you wanted to add a task for yourself that need to follow up with this person in a week. Because I can't tell you how many times that I have heard that, someone is sort of saying, I am just terrible at following up. I feel like, business owners can be so slack at following up, forgetful, not having enough time to do it. But if they have got a reminder to do it, and that reminder is in that CRM, pops up perhaps, as an email notification, or, it might be integrated with your calendar. So it's, part of your to-do list. It's all in the one. Even some emails, depending on the platform, they can also show up on the contact card. So you don't have to sort of scroll into your inbox and try and dig it all out. You can actually have a look at those interactions like right there and then. And, even creating a sales pipeline. So you can have a look at, how many new leads are coming through, where are the existing clients? Where are they at? How many am I offboarding? Then, we can talk about onboarding and offboarding as well, and what that all looks like, and streamlining that process a bit more. But it's really just to, I guess, create a really, I hate the word journey, but it's to create a really nice journey for your client, so that they're getting timely emails, those important emails at certain points of working with you. And, when at the end of the day, when you're offboarding or you've completed, your service with them, then, any particular emails that are normal touch points that you might want to reach out to, perhaps to ask for a testimonial, because I know that that's also something that people struggle with getting, and testimonials are like gold. If you can get a happy client who is happy to, shout your details from the rooftop, you're only going to get more business that way as well, from referrals. And even if it's, there might be, 3-month check-ins. How are you doing? Who is going to remember to do that? And automated emails, that doesn't mean that it's not personal. You can still personalize it. And I know how challenging or difficult that might seem for some people to understand. Like, how can you create an automated email that's personal? And it's really about how the CRM is built. And if it's built to the way that you want it to work, and all the specifics that you want included in these emails, then it's kind of creating that sort of bespoke platform for you. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I can hear so many things in that. And just to say, I completely agree. I personally have so many automations, and like you say, they still feel personal. But it's about, like you said, break it down. Like, what is the journey? Well, what does that look like? So you might say, well, I bring clients on, and this is the sort of average, what does this look like when they work with me? How long does it last? When do I want to be checking in, and all of those things? And that's how you can set up those automations, isn't it? Because you might say, well, I want to have checked in at least once a month, or once every whatever period of time that is. And it doesn't mean that you might not be doing other communication with them on a, one-to-one or project basis, but you've just got this backup email there, right? It's like popping in, like, hey, they're just checking in. There's nothing else, but let me know how things are going. Is there anything that we need to talk about? And what a nice way to make them feel really supported by having that additional piece of communication happening.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And there's, there's a automation, a touch point that I usually raise with my clients. And that is, okay, once you finish working with them and they've given you that testimonial, that, there is one way that you can still show up in their inbox every year, guaranteed. And it doesn't have to be business related at all. And it still makes them feel special, and they're still reminded of you. And that is birthday. And to be able to grab that information from your client at the start, when they start working with you, and they hand over all of the information that you need in order to get your service agreement out, or whatever it might be, and having that birthday email go out to them every year, unless they, unsubscribe and don't want to hear from you again, then you're still showing up in their inbox, and they'll be like, oh, yes, oh gosh, thank you so much. They might even, reply as well. You kind of want that engagement to reply, and then it can start a conversation, how's everything going? How's the family? All of this sort of stuff. And then they might say, oh, you know what? With that birthday email that you sent me a month ago, you jogged into my memory, and I spoke to someone and I remembered you, and you're staying fresh in their mind, and they're able to then also continue to, refer and talk about you, and that other person will ask, well, what was it like working with them? And, it's always nice to think about things like that as to how you can continue to stay on top of someone's mind.
Yeah, I think that's so good. So you've kind of mentioned already following up on leads. I think that was like such an important one to mention, because I think it's also something I hear people struggle with a lot. And, actually having a system where you can think, well, what should that follow-up look like? Can it be something that is automated in a way so that, you can kind of trigger that automation, or have a standard follow-up that might happen so that you don't forget it? Or, like you say, a reminder. Like, what a great way to be actually really helping with your business, because the follow-up is so often just that thing that the person is needing or waiting for. And I see so many people really not doing it. And I love that you've shared, actually, what have you got the tools in your CRM? Like, are you even utilizing them right now to help you with your business?
Exactly. Yeah. It's such an important thing. So, sure, you could have, an automated email that's a follow-up if you haven't heard back, from them, or having that, just that reminder, to follow up. And if it's not something that you want to be following up yourself, if you can also just delegate that, you can hand that over to your VA or someone else in your team that sort of says, hey, can you just make sure that you're checking in to make sure that everyone is followed up in a timely manner? It could just be sending out an email on your behalf. However it is that you communicate, and at least those touch points are still being actioned while you are still doing whatever it is that you do and what you love to sink your teeth into in your business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I think, you've mentioned some really great ideas and tips, because I think as well, people are like, well, I want to keep in touch with people, but I don't want to be sending marketing emails or a newsletter or whatever. And that's totally fine. But, like you said, the birthday one, how simple. And that actually can sit completely separate to your marketing. If you are doing marketing emails, that would be on a list that people may subscribe to or unsubscribe from. But your once a year birthday email would actually just be more seen as a one-to-one message, because it's not going out to a list. So it's not part of the same legislation that covers like your marketing emails. And it's actually more of a personal touch point to a past client to say, hey, happy birthday. And that's a really nice thing, because someone may not want to get you emails every week, or if you're emailing weekly, or, they might just not want all of that in their inbox. It doesn't mean that they don't still want to stay connected with you. And so I love that you've shared that. Like, what a simple way to have a really easy personal touch point. And it doesn't require a lot of setup. It's just thinking, well, when can I gather that data to be in the system, right? And having a system that allows you to automate that email based on the birth date.
Yeah, it's a simple, I know it doesn't sound very simple, but it's as simple as doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What else? Like, do you have anything else up your sleeve? Because I'm like, you've shared some really great nuggets of gold. Anything else that you see people maybe not using their CRM for that is just a no-brainer, or like, hey, have you even thought about doing this? Because I think we've often got technology. I'll put up my hand and say, even though ActiveCampaign tells me I'm like one of their top automators, I'm like, really? I'm actually quite a small business compared to, I'm sure, many that use you. But I love an automation, so they keep sending me emails. But I'm like, I don't actually use a whole lot of features that are in my CRM. I know that I don't. I know that there's so much more I could do. And I'm like, I am not doing the birthday one. Like, I should start doing that. There are things that I am not doing. And I feel like it's partly because there's just so much technology can do for us these days. It's like you could sit there and research every platform that you bring on, but realistically, who's going to do that? We're not. So it's like moments like this when you're listening to a podcast and someone says, hey, by the way, did you know that your CRM potentially could do this for you? And you're like, oh, I didn't even know that. But you can go back and look it up and potentially activate something in there that could be really powerful for you. So just want to
look, I guess to answer that question, there's obviously a plethora of CRMs on the market. So first and foremost, it's definitely finding the right one. I actually do have a free guide on how to help you find the right one, which is on my website, or you find it in the link in my bio if you go to my Instagram. So it's not going to direct you to the right one, but it's going to help you understand what you need to start looking for when researching, because there are so many. But obviously, look, specializing in ActiveCampaign myself, I'm not an affiliate in any way, shape or form. And the reason for that is because it's not a system that I push. I don't push ActiveCampaign on my clients. I find out basically what they need. And if it's a system that I am comfortable to build, then I will opt to take that on, just because I am a self-confessed control freak. And if I build it, then I know.
We want that in an OBM. It's a good thing.
I build it, I know it's going to work. Otherwise, I usually have to check someone else's work if they're going to build it. But otherwise, if it's, for example, a Depsado, which is very, very different to ActiveCampaign, then I will always find a specialist who they know what they're doing. They know the ins and outs. They're up to date on the changes. And look, just I guess to answer your question, and to do it for it to be with ActiveCampaign, a client that I recently in the last few months started working with still has an ActiveCampaign account, but had the access to a what's called a deal, and it's essentially a sales pipeline. And in order for her to track what was going on in her business, she was looking at the automations and looking at emails and who was opening them and the click rates and the open rates. And I said, what are you doing? Like, you have access to a sales pipeline that just needs to be built out. And each stage of that pipeline, once you've moved, someone who's made a new inquiry to, whatever that new stage looks like for that person to be onboarded as a client, these can also trigger automations, as soon as this happens. She just had no idea that was even there. It's there's so many things that you may not be using. And the one, I guess, common theme that I usually see clients who already have ActiveCampaign is that their account hasn't even been set up properly. And what I mean by that is that because I guess it is essentially without the CRM component, it is for EDMs, it is for email marketing. So you still need to connect all of the backend bits and bobs and tech to your domain. You still need to connect it so that look, if you don't, what is going to happen is that most of the emails are going to go into people's spam and junk. Okay. And so it's just so important to have that piece set up. And a lot of people just think that they've bought they've paid for their subscription to have this monthly or yearly or whatever it is. And then they just feel like, okay, I'm just going to start entering my clients' names and they'll just receive all my information. And it's just not the case. So it's really just following all of the prompts, all of the steps to set all of that up. Even just your own fields, creating your own bespoke fields, like the birthday field. There's going to be common standard fields that ActiveCampaign come with, but you can expand on that. You can create your own based on information that you need to know. And that's, I guess, where someone like myself would come in and really find out, how your business operates. Oh, okay, well, we can grab this information from them. We can systemize this a little bit more, get your client to provide that information. Don't ask for it down the track, or get it from them at the start. And all of these things will actually help to make the whole process a lot more streamlined.
Yes. So true. I love that. And I think often it's what we don't know that we need to know.
It's the common thing. What we don't know, we don't know, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes there are things you know that you don't know, and then there's other things that you don't even know that you don't know. That they're not even in your consciousness at all. And that's where the gold can really be. And so, I think, if you've been listening, you're like, well, I have a place where I'm storing clients' data and I'm maybe sending emails from. It could be like, well, what else is actually possible that you may not have even realized? Like, I love how you just said, there you can build automations, but you can actually build an automation to trigger all the automations, so it can be really versatile.
You can.
Based on someone's experience and what they're doing, can actually then start an automation. And that might just sound like, oh my God, when am I ever going to get time to do that? Yeah, exactly. And you can do it. Having someone who already knows how it all works probably can help a great deal in making that process faster. But the beauty that I've found, and I think this is where you step out of the day-to-day and actually really think about your business, is if you invest a little bit of time now setting this up, you're going to gain back that time tenfold over and over and over again. Because when you're not doing this anymore, when your systems are taking care of it, you've now got all that time back. So investing that bit of time up front, like so worthwhile. And I just really see
absolutely,
and experiencing the benefit of that. It's just so good, isn't it?
No, and I'm so glad that you've identified that, because there are so many business owners that I talk to, and they just, all they think of is like, oh, how much is it a month? Like what? And how much time do we need to, how long is it going to take? And sure, things, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I guess, look, the other thing is, sure, this it's not a free tool. It's not a free software. And actually, I did a post the other day on, reasons why not to necessarily look at these CRMs that offer a free or entry level plan, because you're going to find, well, most of the time, they're just not as sophisticated as if you were going to pay for it. And sure, you might not need all those bells and whistles at the start, but as you grow, you're going to find out that you do. And not only is it going to probably cost you a lot more at the time, but trying to then look at a different platform that's going to take more time, rolling over the information, setting it all back up again, like that's just a nightmare in itself, getting it all set up. And you're effectively going to have to kind of be paying for two systems at the same time. So for me, I just say get it done once, do it right. But treat your CRM like a team member. The fact that all of this data is going in the way that you want it to, it's being stored correctly, tasks are being allocated, automations are happening. They're basically doing things. Now, if you're, let's just call it, spending $150 a month, we'll just call it that. You can't pay a human to do all of those things for you month by month. You just can't. But at least this is still being done for you. It's happening in the background. And you can still go and do what it is that you do best.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I think, you mentioned a really good point before about choosing the right system for you. There's so many different options out there. And I think that there are ones that are really well being designed for certain types of businesses. So there's, it's about understanding that and doing that little bit of research. I love that you've got a PDF or a guide, or is it a quiz?
It's a guide. It's really just to kind of help you understand the kinds of questions that you really need to answer about your business, so that when you are looking for that CRM, you can have a look at what it is that you actually need a CRM to do. Because look, again, because there's so many out there, and because you don't know what you don't know, once you know what a CRM can do and what sort of things you would want a CRM to do for your business, then at least you've got something to go out into the world and look for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know this is a totally different topic, but I remember when I went looking for a pram for my daughter, and I asked the lady, I'm here to buy a pram. And she said, so what do you want it to do? And I went, so I want it to hold my child and I want to push it. And she went, yeah. And she just kind of went, look, there's actually, all prams have different features and different this. And, some are heavier and some are lighter and some have bigger baskets. And, Some have 3, like, the amount of information I had to go away and research was just ridiculous. I just thought it was easy just to go in there and pick a color and a pram and that was it.
Yeah.
But because there's just so many different options of that one type of product, you have to understand its capabilities and how that's going to affect your business and if it's going to do what you want. Sure, you may not actually find, and this is a hard thing for some people, they might have all of these things. I want it to do everything from A to Z. You're not always going to find a system that is going to do everything for you from A to Z. Yeah. And if that happens to come about, you really have to start putting things in buckets. Like this is a deal breaker. If it doesn't do this, then I don't want it. Or if it doesn't have a mobile app, it's not going to suit me because I need something while I'm on the go, while I'm, going out for my walk, and I want to be able to multitask. Some people don't care if it doesn't have a mobile app. If they want a client portal where your clients can, log in and see all the things in their client portal. They might be photographers or they might be graphic designers or what have you. And some people, for them, it's more about having those robust automation and making sure that things are happening in a timely manner and that they can see all of the emails and track all of hands, I guess, really what are those important things in your business that you want managed?
Yes. Yeah. So good. And I think that, even if you have already started and you've got a system that you've been using maybe for your email marketing, maybe it was a free one or one of those ones, you might have reached the point where you're thinking, okay, I'm not sure if this is really fulfilling my needs anymore. It's okay, but I think that the important thing you just mentioned is make a choice that's going to actually last for you, because changing systems is such a big undertaking. So if you're at that point where you've gone, well, I went for the freebie one when I was starting out and that was good and it worked at the time, and that is so normal. We've all been there before. Like when you're literally starting out, you might have just made some choices based on it being free. Fine, you did that, but now you've got a business that's going and you're like, it's not serving that need anymore. That next move for you, that is a really important one. You don't want to be changing your systems every couple of years. So choose one that then you're like, well, I need this now, but I perceive that I'm going to need these other things in the next few years. Like look at that capability, because as you mentioned, it's a real nightmare to change. You don't want to do it often. It's like the website, like shifting your website onto a new platform. It sounds easy. It's not. You want to make sure you're choosing your tech with a view to the future. And sometimes it might feel like you're investing in one that's got more than what you need right now. But thinking about where you're going to be and what it is that you're planning to do just means that you're not then going to be in this place again where you're like, oh, I'm not getting what I need from my current tech. It does make a huge difference to have the right platforms there and even like what talks to each other, what does it integrate with? Because if you've got other systems and it doesn't integrate, usually there's a workaround you can figure out some way. Like I'm a big fan of Zapier, but if it can integrate directly, like you don't need Zapier, great. Let's exactly reduce the amount of different tech that you need. As much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Those integrations can be such a lifesaver. And yeah, as long as you're techie or you've got someone on your team who is a bit of a geek, bit of a nerd. Yeah. So but yeah, Zapier as a third-party tool, is fantastic. And obviously, they do offer a free. You can start it out and just kind of see, how it works. And then obviously if you need, multi-step zaps, or if you need more than your 5 zaps or whatever it is that you get on the free account, then obviously you can start to expand from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. You can start off with so much free and then expand as you grow, which is the whole point.
Yes.
That's amazing. Now, Allysha, tell me, where can people connect with you or go to find out more? I'll definitely drop your the link to the, decide on what's the right CRM for you. We'll drop the link to that freebie in the show notes so that you can go straight there. But if they're just like, hey, I really want to learn more about this or connect with you in some way, where do you hang out?
Absolutely. So I guess, look, I am a big lover of Instagram, so you'll find me there. My handle is @theorganizedboss. All one, of course, it's all one word, Allysha. But there's no dots or hyphens in between. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. I'm not super active, but I am there. And yeah, just my website.
Amazing. That's so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share, even just a tiny piece of your knowledge with us today. But such a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Do you have anything that you wanted to leave with the audience? Anything that you're like,
look, I know
if I could tell you something, it would be this.
Yeah, look, the one thing that I would always that I always do say is to just stay focused on whatever it is your goal is. Everyone sort of says stay in your lane, don't compare yourself or your business to any of your peers or anyone else in your industry. You don't know how long they've been running their business for, what they have struggled with in order to achieve what they have. And I know you said it before, but success does look really different to everybody. And so sometimes when I hear, some people sort of saying, you could be booked out, if you take my course, and I'm not saying you couldn't be booked out, but everyone's version of success and being booked out is so different. It really depends on what your capacity looks like. If you only want to have 3 days a week that you dedicate to your business so that you can continue to, enjoy life, then, that's your version of being booked out. We don't have to work 80 hours a week. It's not most of the reason why people start their own business. But definitely stay focused on your goals. Don't compare. And success looks so different to everyone.
Amazing. Yeah, so true. Play the game that you can win and play your game, right?
Play your game.
Your business is your game. It is not someone else's. Love it. I think we're very like-minded on that. So thank you so much for sharing, Allysha. This has been amazing and appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.